A very good morning to all of you. I hope you are enjoying um, a time before Christmas with not too much decoration, not too many unnecessary items around you, and an absolute willingness to go even greener next year. My name is Javila Kropayete, and I want to welcome you very much to this cluster's talk, Accelerating Change, the Green Transition in Focus. What we will do this morning, we will further explore the pivotal role of clusters in driving the green transition, foster dialogue on best practices and biggest challenges, and highlight opportunities for more collaboration and innovation in achieving climate neutrality and sustainable economic growth. So this is the topic of today, Clusters Talks, which you join every 2 weeks, and you're very, very welcome to stay in this session as well. I will briefly take you through what happens further on. We will hear some news from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. We will have some introductory presentations. We will then have a panel debate with 4 prominent speakers from cluster organizations mostly. And then we will, as always, remind you of the funding opportunities that exist. As for the tech tips, the housekeeping rules, Slido will be used as always to launch polls. Scanning the QR code to answer is an option. Using the Q&A function to ask questions on Zoom and the chat function to comment or share links will be highly encouraged as well when speakers want to share something and it's in their presentation. It's also normally in the chat, so do follow the chat, and all of the links will be there. If you're willing to speak, do raise your hand and the floor will be given. Please note that the session is being recorded and the recording will be published on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. I think I've mentioned all of it, and let's move to the news from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform and give the word to Angela.
Okay, thank you very much, Chivile. Thank you all for being here. Okay, having some troubles with the presentation. I don't know why. 1 second, please, Chivile.
Yes, we will.
Can you see now the presentation?
Yes, I think it's working. Unlocking
Okay.
innovation with Trend Universe.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are starting with the Trend Universe and this feature from the service from the ECCP platform, collaboration platform. We invite you to access to this unique and weekly updated innovation database. You can find over 11,000 articles for free. And this innovation database, maybe you can find also, if you want, related innovations related to renewable energy. You may have to have a profile, which is for free in the ECCP platform, and you can access to this database. You can filter by sector, ecosystem, or individual keyword, and also you can prepare your own individual collection of relevant information if you want. There are going to be 10 European Cluster Mid-Regions workshops for next year. So we are reminding you that you still have there is still time until 20 December for this call of expression of interest. The objective, as you know, of these Cluster Mid-Regions organized by the ECCP on behalf of the European Commission is to foster collaborations between clusters and regional authorities. If you are asking who can apply, any cluster stakeholder can apply, and also other regional agencies for economic development and business network groups. Please notice that you will need a letter of support from your regional authority and that the application must be fulfilled in English. At last but not least, we want to present the EU Business Hub, which is connecting you companies, startups, and SMEs with the Japan and Republic of Korea business market. This program is for green and low carbon technologies, digital solutions, healthcare and medical equipment. There are going to be 10 business missions to Japan and 10 business missions to the Republic of Korea. The objective is to assist these companies and these startups in their expansion of these Asian countries. You will find, for example, next year in spring, two um, possibilities: the EU Business Hub and Smart Energy Week in spring. That would be for green and low carbon in Tokyo, and the healthcare and medical equipment Korea in March. Participants will also benefit from other assistance and 1,000 euro contribution for accommodation and other services. Thank you very much, Sibila. I give you the floor again.
Thank you so much, Angela. We will now move straight to the topic, and we will hear from Green Assist, CNIR, European Commission. Gauthier Clar is with us. You're welcome, and thank you so much for joining us and being with us this morning. The floor is yours, Gauthier.
Thank you, Chibile. I hope that everyone hear me and see me well. Thank you to ECCP for invitation. And yes, this morning I'm glad and to introduce you the advisory service for sustainable investment support. The name is Green Assist. I'm Gauthier Clar. I'm a senior financial engineer at CNEA. CNEA, as you may know, is the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. And therefore, I will introduce you in 5 minutes or slightly above. I will try to stick in this window. Green Assist, maybe next slide, or maybe a word about Green Assist immediately. So Green Assist is, as the name indicates, is an advisory program. It provides advisory services, not grants. Those advisory services are there to, let's say, encourage investment in the green sector, and it's supported by a budget of 30 million provided by the LIFE program that is also managed by CNEA. And I guess most of you are familiar with the LIFE program, as you can see on the logo below. Next slide. So maybe a deep dive or an overview of what is Green Assist. So again, it's clear that on what it is an advisory services to prepare green or greener investment project. Here I need to be quite precise about what we mean by green or greener. Green Assist is supporting investment in a green, in a dark green, if you like, in the ecologic transition. Okay, so we will talk about the sectors in a second, but it's really there. It's not climate mitigation, it's really climate adaptation and other action I will detail. The why, the raison d'etre of Green Assist is really to help project promoters, project owners to build a pipeline of green investment projects. So there is a key notion of investment. It can be direct capital expenditure or investment along a supply chain. How? It is not a standard call for grant, as you have now understood. It's on demand. It's open every day of the year. It's free, meaning that the advisory services are actually sponsored and paid by CNEA. And those advisory services are customized to the needs of the beneficiary. Those advisory services are provided either by specialized experts or by consultancy. For whom? Green Assist is available to all private and public beneficiaries having investment in the EU. There is no need to be an existing beneficiary of a EU program, no need to be an existing beneficiary or even of LIFE program. It covers diversified sectors, circular economy across all sectors, and obviously there will be a focus in the next programming period into the circular competitiveness, let's call it this way. But we will obviously maintain and continue to support projects in the biodiversity and the natural capital, notably water, soil restoration, preservation, and these kind of things. And finally, there are obviously some eligibility tests, including best fit and no overlap. Of course, we Green Assist cannot provide. We'll try to will not overlap with other technical program of the Commission or the EIB. And I'm thinking right now, on top of my mind, to Elena, the EIB technical assistance for energy transition. Maybe next slide. So actually, under Green Assist, there are two forms of advisory services. On the left-hand side, project advisory, and also on the right-hand side, enabling advisory. The project advisory is really dedicated to project owners that have a identified specific project that they control. Okay, the project advisory is the advisory services are actually delivered by experts from a roster, that is a pool of experts that we have built over time. We have now 425 experts covering all sectors, all countries, and all, let's say, fields of expertise. You can see below some sort of expertise that you can expect under the project advisory. Now, also, I want to spend a bit more time about enabling advisory because clearly, under enabling advisory, what we want to provide is advisory services in a wider sense that prepare the ground for greener projects, always, like market development, capacity building. So under capacity building, it can take different form, mentoring, coaching, session, creating manual procedure, and these kind of things. And market development is again something else that we can provide. And here, this is really something that where we can work together. I will come in a second about that. With enabling advisory, we intend to provide transversal services to address transversal needs. Here, the beneficiary doesn't need to have a project under his belt or under his control, but it needs to be able to reach out to these project owners. The reason why we have these two pockets is because we wanted to have as much flexibility and to cover all angle, not to leave any blind spot. So CNEA decides in between these two forms, mostly based on the question, does the beneficiary has control over a specific investment project? Okay. So if there is a one project owner, okay, it would be most likely for project advisory. And if it's more an umbrella or you know, a multiplier as we call it, then it will be more enabling advisory. But there is room for flexibility. We've seen cases where we have more than two experts, cases where also under project advisory we can serve the needs of multi-beneficiary working together. Maybe next slide. Thank you. Yes. Now I'm focusing on enabling advisory, so it's really some communication to clusters around the table. If you're interested to get some enabling advisory, here are some key elements that I would like to highlight in terms of eligibility. These are nice to have, huh? Not must have. Of course, it will be customized. In terms of relevance, we would like to see requests for advisory addressing a gap to existing needs, and most likely a transversal gaps that obviously all your constituents face. In terms of coordination, the beneficiary, the clusters, for example, or any umbrella, should demonstrate that it's well suited to ensure effective liaison and follow-up with project developers. Common challenges, again, the Green Assist should address challenges common to all project developers that you will liaise with, either financial, regulatory, or technical. Also nice to have in terms of replicability, scalability, result of the support can be applied to other sectors or geographic areas facing similar challenges. And deliverable, we'd like to see something like it's really something that can filter through in terms of deliverable to the project owners beneath you. So it has to be tangible deliverables like tool platforms with relevant KPIs. Maybe next slide and final slide. Yes, I wanted to, as Angela and Jivile proposed, maybe to throw some ideas for the panel discussion. I think that Green Assist can build a win-win relation with clusters. Why? On the one hand, Green Assist needs to deliver result on the ground. This requires visibility, while our marketing resources are scarce and hard to acquire. That's the dilemma of being on top of a pyramid here in Brussels or being on the ground. We cannot be like the cat or in two places at the same time. So there is room for delegation for on-the-ground marketing. On the other hand, clusters, you have a fiduciary duty to your members as well. And you have a transversal approach and knowledge. You know of the challenges that your constituents face. You have also regular requests from your members that are hard to address maybe at your level. So here again, you have room, perhaps, I'm venturing this idea, you may have room for delegation to external expertise, either under enabling advisory, if you have a transversal approach and knowledge of challenges, or under a project advisory, if you have a request from one of your member and this member happen to be in control of a project. So that's a win-win situation. There are also conditions to win-win. First of all, in terms of governance, we want to ensure that reconnection for all, whatever the role of the cluster, being enabling advisory or project advisory, there has to be recognition for all. If you bring us a project, you'll be associated, you, the cluster, will be associated to the success of the project, supported by Green Assist. And there are also some understanding of key principle. Key principle, actually I've highlighted one, the project and project owners' genuine advisory needs only matters for Green Assist. This is what matters, and the rest is excluded. Now, for us, we need to find the right balance between transversality. I mean, how many project owners I can reach talking to one beneficiary, and verticality. And verticality, with this word, sorry for the jargon, I mean how close the beneficiary is to project owners, project developers on the ground. So you see these two axes, we need to find a balance. We would like to target as many project owners talking to you, but also we want to ensure that the beneficiary will be as close to these project owners. So this leads to a debate about what I call the level of proximity to the ground of umbrella organizations. So we have defined some kind of levels. Level 0 is obviously the level of project owners, people developing project on the ground, having investment on the ground. Level 1 will be a cluster of these owners. Level 2 will be a cluster of cluster, and so on and so forth. And clearly, this is the debate that we have in terms of transversality versus verticality. The higher the cluster is, the more transversal it is, but the less vertical it is, because it will create difficulty to reach out. And that's my final point. Final point is, yes, once we have defined the right level, then of course we will need to define interface task for the beneficiary, i.e. a cluster, and KPIs, ensuring that expertise effectively filters through to the ground. In conclusion, I'm going to skip maybe, or maybe yes, you can turn to next slide, but I will not describe because I'm already yeah. I'm not going to describe this graph, but just to say that when we engage with a beneficiary, i.e. a cluster, it takes time because we senior, we define the terms of reference with the beneficiary. This is a lot of work. And actually, I can tell you, if you have questions, the type of enabling advisory that we have right now. But to the clusters around the table this morning, my message is think about your needs. Think about what I just said in terms of identifying a transversal challenges and these kind of things. And then when you have a reflection about that and you ensure the verticality that you can deliver the result of the advisory to the ground, then we can engage, because it's again some work on our hand. So yeah, I guess this is my request to you. We are very glad to help clusters with Green Assist, supporting the dark green transition, ecologic transition, but it needs some preparation. So that's my message. Over to you, Chivile. Sorry for.
Thank you. No,
Voilà.
thank you. And I would like to just double check. I mean, you are not so far cooperating with clusters, because as you say, there needs to be preparation done first, right?
We are not. We have had a discussion. I was attending to the whatever the cluster conference in May, I guess, in Brussels, and I must say that so far the pipeline of project that we support with Green Assist, about 70, are mostly project advisory. We are just starting to build the enabling advisory. It's not per se clusters, but we are having discussion with some clusters, and we hope that we will finalize that. So it's either a thematic discussion, you know, like a challenge to a segment of the industry, or and regional. Okay. But we are still we are engaging in this direction, and we are obviously willing to do much better. Thank you for turning this last slide, and so that people can obviously take a picture of the QR code where you'll find more information about Green Assist.
Is there a specific procedure of applying to the Green Assist Advisory Service? Christine is asking.
Good question. As I say, it's fairly much customized. If you go on the web page, you will find the links to the functional mailbox. You can send us an email. We will address that request, and we will obviously answer questions. So it's open to to everyone. So just explain in a very short email what is your question, what are your needs, and obviously where are you. Obviously we're interested to know. So that's very simple.
Thank you so far for now. Thank you so much. Thank you for your presentation. We will move to the green transition support and hear from the circular economy consultant at Prognose, Vera Wechner, who will also be delivering her presentation with a colleague, Luca Tarantino. But first, we'll hear from Vera.
Yeah, many thanks. And hello also from my side. I'm happy to have the opportunity today to introduce Green Transition Support and talk a bit more about what we have been doing in the last few months. At first, I want to give you a brief overview on what Green Transition Support is about, and then tell you a bit more about 2 new items that we developed and which are now available. So next slide, please. So what is Green Transition Support? It is a knowledge hub and part of the ECCP website, so you can find it there. It provides information on key topics such as energy efficiency, resource efficiency, and emission reduction. And with the services, we do not target at businesses directly, but this knowledge hub is more for cluster organizations and cluster managers, so for those who support the transition in the regions. And what can you find there? We have some tools, such as an industrial symbiosis tool. You can find good practices, as well as latest news and events on the topic of green transition. And as I said before, I would like to go a bit more into detail on the 2 new items that we developed. So next slide, please. So the first thing that we developed is a step-by-step guide on what clusters can do to facilitate the green transition. The guide includes several steps. We listed some of them on the slide. So the first step, for example, goes into the importance of identifying the needs and challenges from your cluster members. Another step, for example, explains why it can be beneficial to integrate sustainability into the cluster strategy and give the topic a bit more of a priority. Or we also talk about the benefits of collaborating with other clusters. What else can you find in this guide? You can also find good practices in there. You can see on the slide the green hexagons in the document. So you will find them there. And there's also a link to find out more on each of the examples. Next slide, please. Because this already brings me to the second feature that I would like to briefly introduce here today. So if you click on the links that I just mentioned from the document earlier, you will be led to the new good practice collection. You, of course, can also access the good practice collection directly via the website. It is a good practice collection showcasing activities that clusters have implemented to support their members in advancing sustainability. The good practices are based on several interviews that we had with several cluster managers throughout the last month. So if you have any good practice examples or activities that you would like to share with other cluster managers, please do reach out and contact us. We are more than happy to also add further examples to this collection. Unfortunately, I only have five minutes, so we won't have time today to go more into detail of all of the examples, but you can find all of them on the ECCP website, as I just mentioned, and read more about it there. But just to mention a few examples to give you a very first idea on what you can find there. We have one example where a cluster organization implemented focus groups, and we are explaining how this enhanced the knowledge exchange and collaboration, or how innovation challenges can stimulate innovative business solutions, and how a sustainability desk can assist businesses. About this last example, you will hear more in just a second. So I'm very happy that we have Luca Tarantino joining today as well to this call. He was one of the cluster managers that we interviewed, and together we identified several good practices from the Confindustria Emilia region. You, of course, can all find them all in the good practice collection as well. So thank you, Luca, for joining today, and I'm very much looking forward to hear more on the activities that we identified and that you are doing in your cluster when it comes to sustainability. So over to you.
Thank you, Vera. Hi, everyone. I'm Luca, Research, Innovation and Sustainability Officer at Confindustria Emilia Area Centro. And I will just introduce you very briefly our cluster. Next slide, please. So, Confindustria Emilia is an Italian association with more than 3,200 associated companies. And it is located in the yellow provinces that you see highlighted in that map. So the companies, the member companies, are located in the provinces of Bologna, Modena, and Ferrara in the northern part of Italy. Our association is divided in 20 value chain clusters, and most of them are composed of manufacturing companies. For example, among the biggest value chain clusters, we have a cluster in construction, paper, energy, machinery, metals, packaging, automotive, and ceramics. So you can understand that the vast majorities of our members are SMEs. We recently started to participate. We started in 2020 in Horizon projects or EU projects in general. So we started with New Skin, an Horizon 2020 project, and then we worked on Caffeine, which is a coordination and support action related to cluster action. And finally, the last one that we started to work on is Credit, which is an Interreg Central Europe project. Our departments work on many sectors to help companies to achieve their goals, and of course also sustainability, to be sustainable. For example, we have a tax and legal department, but also environment and safety, internationalization, labor law, and my area, which is the sustainability and the EU funding area. Next slide. So I finally introduce you the main actions that I wanted to talk about, and can be hopefully used as an example for other clusters to help companies their companies, their member companies in the green transition. Starting from 2021, we developed the sustainability unit, as I mentioned before, and for example, one of the main services that we developed in that area is the sustainability desk. And the sustainability desk aims to help companies with their ESG strategies. So we help companies to first of all realize what is sustainability, and in 2021 that wasn't so obvious, since many companies, especially SMEs, were contacting us and were asking what is sustainability, really, like this question. So we help them develop strategic goals, and a strategic approach. And we also provided many services, such as, for example, a gap analysis, but also training programs. We were preparing meetings with the companies and providing them two lessons, let's say lessons, where we explain them what is the sustainability, how can they achieve a sustainability strategy, and impact assessment reports to understand what were the main strengths and weaknesses of the companies. Another project that we started 2 years ago, and maybe it is worth to mention here as well, is the Project Academy. So what we did, we hired with a fixed term contract 7 young graduates. So recently graduates, either bachelor or master's, with either a bachelor or a master's degree, and offer them a 10-month paid graduate program. During the first month, the first 3 months of these programs are basically lessons. So we train them on sustainability management, innovation strategies, and the EU project funding rules. Then we started a more practical phase of the program, where we bring them, like we go to visit our members. So we introduce them to our members' companies, and of course we also sponsor them, let's say, to our companies, to see if the member companies that are now getting prepared with sustainability can be interested in their profile. And I will just conclude here because I think that I'm almost out of time, by saying that, for example, this year is the second. We are on the second edition. Last year we helped a young graduate to connect with a company based in Modena, one of our provinces, and now she's in charge of creating. She's basically creating a sustainability unit for the company. So it was helpful for her to find a job, but of course for our member to finally start a path on sustainability and green transition.
Thank you. Luca, I don't know if you could answer the green transition related question that Christine has posed. Does the green transition support include support or advisory on ECR, ECRS?
Maybe I can jump in here. So for now, the green transition support does not cover this topic, but we will look into future support needs, and we plan to further develop this section of the website. So we will definitely have a look on this as well.
Yes, I can just add, sorry.
No, go on.
Yes, I can just add that one of our main topics are the gap analysis, actually, that you see highlighted here is on the ESRS. So yes.
Thank you, everybody. for your presentations. We will move on and we'll speak to the panelists soon. But before that happens, there is a Slido launch, the Slido app that we would like to launch to also get to know something about our audience and how familiar they are with maybe these measures and other measures, and what they think about the green transition. Join at hashtag green transition, or just purely scan the QR code. And we are going to ask you a multiple choice question, which will be very easy. You just have to pick one of the options, and we get an idea which area of the green transition presents the greatest opportunity for your organization, be it cluster, not a cluster, net zero technologies, resource efficiency, circular economy practices, low carbon production methods, renewable energy adoption, or other options. Resource efficiency is the most common option. Which area of green transition presents the greatest opportunity? Greatest opportunity for your organizations. Resource efficiency and zero technologies, net zero technologies. Thank you so much for your responses. We will move to another question. There will be 3 in total, so do not worry. We will not take too long answering them, and your contribution is really appreciated. What is the biggest challenge your cluster or your organization is facing in achieving climate neutrality? Regulatory complexities, limited access to funding, lack of technical expertise, insufficient stakeholder collaboration, uncertainty in market demand. All of these challenges seem really relevant to whoever is responding. Limited access to funding, regulatory complexities, uncertainty in the market demand. I will give you some few more seconds to respond. And I see that none is dominating. Limited access to funding, regulatory complexities, and lack of technical expertise. Equally challenging. Let's move on then. Thank you so much. And this will be more of an open question. What do you think are the key factors that will drive the green transition forward? Anything that comes to your mind? If you could type that in, it will come in a word cloud, and it will be helpful for the debate as well. Funding. What are the key factors, key forces, key factors that will drive the green transition forward? Funding. Funding will drive the green transition forward. I think we've gotten quite a few words: education and collaboration support, mindset, necessity to react to planetary boundaries, KPIs, regulation, managers' mind, stakeholders' engagement, cooperation again, just transition, political support. I think I've read most of them, at least. Costs. So again, funding, but funding is the most negative externalities. But funding is the most common one. Thank you. It's all clear perfectly. Thank you for your responses. And we move on to the panel discussion. We are joined by International Relations Project Manager at Pôle Méditerranée at Business and Innovation C Cluster, Fanny Mouton. We also have with us Communication and Innovation Project Manager at Femetal Industry, Silvia Jimenez. Principal at Prognose, Yanis Lambert, and we've got account manager at Flux 50, Ariane Dakramer. So all of you are with us. Thank you for joining. And maybe let's take a minute each to briefly introduce yourselves and mention your familiarity, your connection with the projects that were mentioned, with the tools that were mentioned, Green Assist, and we have also talked about the green transition support. Was that something new, or was that something that you plan to be working on? If you could just say a word on that as well, as you introduce yourself, that would be helpful too. And I think that maybe Fanny, we will begin with you.
Thank you, Sibylle. So I'm Fanny Mouton, International Relations Manager at Bonne Mère Méditerranée. We're CM Business and Innovation Cluster based in southern France. Our role is really to promote innovative products in the maritime economy, and of course, sustainability in the green or blue transition is really core to our principles. And I was very pleased actually to discover the tools that were presented earlier in the talk. This is not something that as far as I know, we received information about previously. So I'm very pleased to have that information now and be able to promote that to our members. I think these are tools that, will really be helpful to companies that are looking to develop those specific topics, and that's expertise that we may not necessarily have internally. So it's great to see that expertise can be shared between clusters.
Thank you very much. Sylvia, would you like to go on?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sibylle. So thank you very much for having us here. I'm Silvia Jimenez, and I work as a project manager at Femetal Industry. We are a cluster located in the north of Spain, and we are focused on the advanced manufacturing industries in Asturias, in our region. So for sure, the green transition and sustainability is the key actor in our core, and it's one of our main focus. And as Fanny said, I'm super pleased to have heard about these initiatives. I didn't know about them, honestly, and I think they are so interesting for us and for our members. I also agree with a lot of things said on the Slido, as the opportunities and the challenges that we are all facing. So I think this kind of tools like green transition support or green assist can be really useful for us as clusters to work collaborative and yeah, make an impact on this green transition on our companies.
Thank you. Yanis.
Thank you, Civil. My name is Yanis from Prognos. We are a research. We work with also the European Commission on several projects related to the transition and transitional challenges. And so we are also involved in the ECCP, and we're happy to manage the green transition support platform. My colleague Vera just presented something we developed recently for this platform. And yes, from that, so Vera also said we are in exchange with several clusters and have conducted a series of interviews, and I'm happy to share some learnings and conclusions we draw from that today.
How do you feel about the obvious funding being, the factor that will drive the green transition forward, as the poll has suggested?
Is that to me specifically? Yes. Well, I'm not surprised. That's something we are hearing very often. Of course, the transition involves often quite complex projects, and those projects they need money, and especially at the being at companies or at the regional level, it's often very difficult to organize the necessary amounts, and so funding, of course, is very key. And unfortunately, usually either it is, or at least it is perceived by applicants that funding opportunities are usually very complex to understand, to apply for. So I would say that actually there is a lot of funding opportunities and offers, but the challenge is to find the right one, and then also to apply and to create the willingness to conduct this process and really go through it.
Thank you. Ariane, tell us a little bit about Flux 50 and your initial view.
Yes, Flex 50 is the energy cluster in Flanders, northern part of Belgium. So energy cluster, energy transition is at the core of our focus. So I'm internationalization pioneer and a startup corporate ecosystem lead at Flux 50. Something that I really want to stress already from the beginning is really the cooperation that I already read also in the Slido slide. Like cooperation is really in the DNA of a cluster and definitely also in the DNA of Flux 50. Cooperation is necessary because none of the parties like policymakers, but also businesses, solution providers, research institutes, they can't do it by themselves. And it's the task of the cluster to capture the background and the language that each of one of those speaks, to mingle them together, to cooperate for this big challenge that we are faced with. As an introduction, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think because we have already listed in the poll and in the debate a little bit challenges, let's maybe begin with showcasing good examples. And I will ask each of you to share maybe the most recent examples of yours of how clusters successfully contributed to sustainable projects or initiatives, and what was the most instrumental in it? Was there a specific tool, by the Commission, or was it, the specific people who were very initiative and willing to be successful? What contributed to the success mostly, and something from the recent past of the cluster's existence? So let's start with showcasing good examples, if you don't mind, Fanny.
Yeah, so actually a very recent example that we contributed to and that was recently published in the press was Polymers Méditerranée's involvement as project manager on a technical study for the Port of Marseille to quantify the carbon emissions in the port. This is, of course, only a first step in the ecological transition of the Port of Marseille, which is one of the largest ports in the Mediterranean. But our role and the reason we were chosen as the project manager for that technical study is because we know how to speak to all of these different stakeholders, as Ariane mentioned. We know what the port is expecting, what the authorities are expecting, what the companies that work at the port are expecting, and what they produce. We know what their challenges are on the field because we talk to them year round. And we're able to coordinate everybody and to get the data. And also afterwards, an important part of it, and I don't think it should be neglected, is the communication aspect on these initiatives. Because if you have an initiative in the ecological transition and nobody knows about it, did you really have an initiative on that's related to the ecological transition? It's important to communicate on these initiatives so that other stakeholders, maybe in other regions or in other countries, are aware of what's being done, and either can contact us to ask how we've done it, and we can share best practices, or be inspired to launch their own initiatives with their own tools that they have at their disposal. Yeah, I think that's a really key part as well. And as a cluster, we have access to that network as well to be able to share the information with as many people as possible.
Thank you. Sylvia, would you agree that clusters are important in spreading the information, communicating about successful projects as well? And maybe you have a recent example as well.
Sure, thank you, Sybille. Yes, I totally agree. We have to communicate everything, and we are like the link for all the stakeholders acting on this transition. And for sure, it's the key part of the cluster score to communicate and to be that space where all information is shared and understand for sure. And As an example, we of course we do have some projects that that include like the green transition and tools for the companies, especially for SMEs to get into that transition. We're also working on a training plan in which we are expecting to have some training on this matter also in green transition. And just to give you a practical example, we are part of the Engineers Eurocluster project, in which we have funded 7 collaborative and innovation projects that support the processes and the technologies that reinforce the transformation into green and more digital companies. We are focused on SMEs, working on the energy-intensive industry. And thanks to this project, we have, of course, support innovative companies financially, and they also are able now to be part of the transition into greener products and greener processes. We're helping them to open new markets at the European level. So I think it's a really, I mean, it's a good practice that we have done because the projects have been really successful.
And Sylvia, because I know that you would have to leave soon, I was wondering maybe you could also share what, in your perspective, are the biggest challenges in this regard.
Sure. I'm as I said before, I was totally agree with the Slido answers, because I think we all face the same challenges, which is regularity, complexity. It's complex for even for us, for clusters and for SMEs to understand all the regulatory framework. Of course, the limited funding. It's a big challenge that we are all facing, the funding. And I think our role as cluster is to facilitate the companies and all our members, all the stakeholders, to access to that funding, to help them to access to new projects and yeah, to new markets.
And looking ahead, what do you see as the key opportunities for clusters to amplify their impact in the green transition?
I think we have to focus on working collaborative through all Europe, all of us, all the clusters, and with initiative like the Green Assist or the Green Transition Support. I think it's a good tool to work together, and yeah, just to share all our experience, our knowledge. These Eurocluster talks are great for that, and yeah, just to have like a bigger space in which we can make a difference, of course, make an impact on the green initiatives and regulations, and of course the funding, and yeah, try to work beyond projects in our with our companies and work more collaborative.
Okay, Sylvia, thank you so much. I know that you will have to leave now. Thank you for your contribution. And Gautier will have to leave as well, so we'll return the word briefly to him before we return back to the panelists, and maybe ask for a final comment, what you're hearing. It's not the advisory services that clusters need, but funding. This is the one final line that we...
Well, I wanted to comment on that, Jivile, because I respectfully I kind of disagree. I know that, and I I'm not some kind of communication person, and I know that CINEA raison d'être is obviously to implement actions and program from the Commission distributing grants, but funding into the with the meaning of grant. Yeah, of course, it's part of the solution, because we all know that to deliver higher and to meet higher environmental challenges, it goes with cost. We need to compensate external negative externalities, and it goes with cost. And therefore, there is a market failure in technical jargon. And grant is obviously an instrument to address this market failure. Okay, but it's not the only one. So please, clusters, do not consider and maybe do not convey to your members that the grants are the panacea. It's part of the, let's say, tools that are available. yes, they are needed to kickstart a project to some extent, but really before you get to this, you need to, project owners need to reflect about, why do I need a grant? What for? What are the pros and cons of of a grant? Of course, it sounds like free money, but it goes with some complexity. So it's not something that you should say, okay, I'm going to activate the lever here and ask for a grant. They need to understand what is a grant for and what goes with it. To do that, expertise and working with a trusted advisor, and here I'm pleading, I'm speaking for the Chapel of Green Assist, of course, is also key. To understand, what they need exactly. And maybe, yes, there are ways to leverage, other financing. There are ways to know how to, let's say, present an appealing project to a venture fund or these kind of things. And this is what what the services of Green Assist can do as well. So again, let's not use the word funding, i.e., as a substitute for grant, like a panacea, because it is not, in my view. Yes, of course,
Thank
it's
you.
somewhere in a landscape, but it's not the only thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your contributions. And I think we let you go because you've got meetings
Yes.
as well. So thank you for joining us.
Truly, with my thanks to all of you for the invitation, and we'll be glad to obviously come back if there are any other session, and obviously to address questions that you may have. So apologies for having to leave now, but thanks, and have a good day to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ariane, do you have a good example from your practice?
Yes, I wanted to elaborate perhaps a bit. Yeah, I do have some examples, and perhaps first saying that the strategy that we use, it's the same for all projects. So we try to inspire the ecosystem with good practices from abroad, from the region, and then we try to connect them to set up a project, and we try to speak their language and the languages of the various stakeholders. And then we really, once they get connected, we try to accelerate and enhance the innovation. But for example, we also try to work cross-border, because that's a very important one, and work on legislation and regulatory barriers are good for supporting innovation, because as we've seen also in the Slido, but that's also something that we meet regularly, is that that legislation, or at least regulatory barriers, can be very high. So getting offered like a regulatory sandbox is a real good opportunity to set up a project. But for example, a project that just kickstarted this week is an Interreg project where Flux 50 is involved as a partner. It's facilitating interregional local energy exchange. And on the one hand, so we look for very concrete energy exchanges from across the borders. For example, a big chemical concern in the port of Antwerp is already looking into exchanging residual waste heat to greenhouse horticulture in the Netherlands, but also looking into how can they capturing the produced CO2 across the borders. And it might sound simple, but doing this across the borders is definitely not an easy thing. So that is really where a cluster that has already good cooperation with other clusters across the border can really jump in and provide support to the companies who want to do that, who want to go forward, because that's something that we really see. And perhaps I feed in a bit into previous discussions. The funding is always a matter, of course, but the thing that we really see is that the companies, they want to go forward, they want to innovate, they are really eager to make this energy transition and happen and feed into this climate challenges. But it's like legislation, tariffs, regulatory barriers that are really a lack of cooperation. Those are really barriers that are holding this innovation through, and also like the really accelerating to the market. That is really where clusters can also make the difference. We see, for example, really an increasing number of startups that have solutions for bigger challenges or very niche but very important challenges as well. And as a cluster, I also see the task there to work together with already existing organizations that supports startups, etc. But really like hosting them in the ecosystem of the cluster can be really beneficial also for those bridging the gap to the market.
Thank you. Yanis.
Yes, thank you. I can just invite everyone to check out our new good practice collection that my colleague Vera just presented. I'm looking at it right now, and we have collected several interesting examples of what clusters can do, and I think also inspiring examples. So, for example, hackathons, online marketplace, sustainability desk, talent pool platform.
Is there anything about net zero technologies related to net zero technologies?
So in this collection, there's no specific example on this, but on the one hand, we also want to we want to enrich this collection. But maybe one other thing I would like to recommend, I also saw in the chat that there's a question related to the complexity of sustainability challenges. And we also compiled a starter guide. So for clusters still, well, a bit unsure what to target and where to start, maybe this can be a helpful resource. And it also addresses net zero aspects, of course, and intends to provide some orientation to kickstart the process.
Well, the reason I mentioned net zero technologies is that because it was also reflected in Slido, and I wanted to ask someone else if maybe there are some views on the untapped potential of net zero technologies in clusters, or maybe you already have some projects that you're working on and that you would like to expose as well. Fanny or Ariane? How much untapped potential there is in net zero technology? And would that be the future, looking ahead, one of the key opportunities for clusters?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's there is still a margin to be, there is still a lot to be done. As I see, we talk about the Euro Clusters call that has just been launched with a deadline in February. I think that is really an opportunity to set up value chains across border value chains, and then I think of, for example, technologies for we have projects running on direct current microgrids, or district heating, feeding in from waste heat, process waste heat from industry for district heating. Their innovation might be especially also in the digital component. So I think there are still a lot of innovations to be done in these net zero technologies, and in the different pieces to be put in the puzzle of the value chain of these technologies. And also here, cross-border collaboration is so valid to set this up and to make this happen. Yeah, the single market and Europe is really a tool that we can use for that is necessary to make this happen. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Yanis. You are raising your hand.
Yes, so now I understood better your question, and yeah, I would also like to add something to this. From my perspective, I mean, there are many clusters and other organizations that have already worked on the transition, especially climate neutrality, for several years, and that have already achieved several successes. But I think, well, in most areas, the low-hanging fruits, well, there might be still a few here and there, but most of them have been harvested. But well, now it's about going to the next steps, and of course, it becomes more complex and more difficult. But now it's especially the time where I think clusters can support very well, because it's about collaboration. It's about exchanging knowledge. It's about going beyond the individual factory gates, but well, working together and to, as Ariane just mentioned, for example, for district heating systems or other more complex technological systems, they will require collaboration, and that's where clusters come in. It's at the heart what clusters can do, and where they can support very well.
Yeah, if I can just add on to what Yannis
Fanny.
has just said, I think that's where our role in particular in working with very large companies comes into play and is very important, because when we talk about true net zero technologies, it takes into consideration very structural issues regarding our energy production and our supply chain, as Ariane mentioned. And that's where larger companies have more leverage. And so it's true that clusters, most of our activity is aimed at SMEs, and that's normal because SMEs are maybe in some areas are more dynamic, or they need more assistance from us to be able to develop their innovations. But the larger companies are the ones that have the weight to really impact on a large scale the energy transition and help make technologies net zero. So that's where we need to work with them, work on open innovation, and also make sure that they are in line with the expectations of the authorities. Work with them to influence authorities, and connect afterwards with SMEs, and where there might be missing technological bricks, connect everyone together. But I did want to emphasize the role of large companies that we are in collaboration with.
Thank you for that. We are about to finish, but I can see that Ariane has raised her hand, and we will hear you now.
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to feed in these larger companies, and also perhaps what hasn't been mentioned is this cross-sectoral. We as a cluster, yeah, we host the ecosystem of solution providers, but the end users, they are like the circle around the clusters that really need the solutions of our companies, and we can work with them in open innovation challenges, etc. Yeah, we will host like an event like this Star Watts in the autumn of 2025 that really will link bigger corporates, think corporates to a lot of startups and scale-ups with concrete solutions to VCs, but also setting up cross-sector projects. Like when the energy crisis started, we noticed that a lot of sectors came to us, and before our ecosystem was based more on solution providers, but now it's really expanding with these end users as well. We have this project, Rethink Energy for Food, where we look into the process heat of food producing companies, and where we set up a whole platform, knowledge platform, etc., and exchanging on this. And we see that it is really something, this cross-sector collaboration is also something really valid. And yes, the bigger industry, but also just the scale beyond that is also a very important one, where there is still a lot of margin to work on.
Thank you. Just one last message from each of you. If Gauthier's last message was, do not convey to your members that grants are a panacea, what would your last message be to help us with the green transition, help us all eventually with a green transition? But the message from clusters, if you had to basically pick one sentence, single out one idea, what would you end with? Yannis.
hard to put it in one sentence, but I would say that well, clusters should be aware of their powerful role they can have in the transition. I think many key transitional challenges match very well with specific strengths of clusters in what they do, and so they are in a really pivotal role. And I think with that positive mindset, you can get a lot moving.
Thank you. Ariane or Fanny?
I think that as clusters, so not only do we need to have sustainability be an integral part of every project we work on with our companies, but I think we also need to be convinced ourselves of the need to transition. And I think we need to think that we are also employers and think of our internal structure and how we can improve our internal sustainability as well. I think that's something that maybe is a bit more challenging. It's great to say to others, you need to be sustainable and develop sustainable technologies, but I think we should also be wary about how we apply that to ourselves, because I can think of a few practices that, even for us, maybe we could improve on.
Thank you. Ariane.
Yes, a message to everyone is really clusters host the ecosystem for innovation. Let that ecosystem play, give them the space to play, give them the framework to play, but not the constraining framework, but the open framework to play and to make this innovation happen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking your time to participate and to spend some time reflecting on something that we sometimes think we all know that by heart already, but it's always good to hear how others feel and to check the temperature and the climate and the role of clusters in the green transition with a focus on net zero technologies. We've discussed some opportunities as well and challenges and forces that will drive the green transition forward and the cluster's role in them. So I really want to thank everybody for taking the time to share their good practices and challenges. And I will return the word back to Angela to remind us all about the funding opportunities, because funding, as we remember, is not a panacea, but it's crucially important.
Thank you, Turile. A really very interesting debate indeed. So we are presenting some funding opportunities for this green transition. First one would be support for SMEs developing circular economy and sustainable solutions for agri-food sector in the Euro region, Pyrenees, Mediterranean. And the deadline for this call is 15 January. The initiative supports small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, in the agri-food sector, and the activities may focus on industrial water management, sustainable packaging, process optimization, and valorization of co-products. And the proposals are expected to accelerate adoption of sustainable and circular solutions, improve resource efficiency, reduce waste, and drive environmental innovation, and strengthen interregional SME collaboration. We have this other call. It's called Integrated Peri-Urban Areas in the Transition Towards Climate Neutrality. The deadline is 11 February, and this call focuses to achieve climate neutrality in peri-urban areas. Projects have to demonstrate scalable, innovative solutions, and they must integrate green and smart practices. The key objectives are the mobility, the energy, industry, and the governance. As always, you can find all these funding opportunities on the EU Funding and Tenders portal. And at last, we have this Creative Innovation Lab. This call is supporting the design and testing of innovative digital solutions. It encourages cross-sectoral collaboration, as also mentioned during the debates. And this proposal is addressing environmental transition, content circulation, and adaptation to new technologies. And the projects must focus on one or more of these topics, which are green practices and cross-sectoral collaboration. We have also mentioned during the debate the Euroclusters for Europe's recovery with the deadline 5 February. And this time the call focuses on reinforcing innovation and adoption of new technologies for strategic autonomy. This call is divided into 2 strands. Strand 1 focusing on net zero technologies and raw materials, and second strand covering value chain not covered in strand 1. 16 are going to be the number of projects to be funded, and the budget will be 42 million euro. There are some open opportunities for SME still from the previous Euroclusters call, and we have Francis EI for providers in the areas of digitalization and green transition, Gemstone for training in green manufacturing, Ingenious, which also provides training to SMEs to improve their digital skills, a couple of calls for resist, networking and marketing, and internationalization, and also the storytelling video for this week of Sileo. All the calls can be found on the Cluster Collaboration platform. Thank you very much, Yle.
Thank you, and all of the links could be found in the chat. So go there if you've missed any of them. And in a week, we will speak about state aid from policy to practice. Do not forget to register for the next Clusters Docs. It will probably surely will be the last one of this year. So if you have not done registration, you're most welcome to do that. And do not forget to participate in all of the cluster relevant discussions on LinkedIn. European Cluster Collaboration Platform has a profile there. There's a general discussion group. So do put in your contributions. We highly appreciate them and value them, and are really, really eager to hear from you. Slides will be uploaded on the ECCP website, yes, and the ECCP website could be visited for the recording and for more information, and social media links are here, and X, Twitter, LinkedIn, and other social networks are very much waiting for your participation. So thank you very, very much for being with us, and I really hope to see you next time. Good luck and have a good day.